My name is Dr. Kevin Pecca. I wanted to make a podcast that exposes people to the true miracles of life and health. All the guests on this show have been specially picked because they bring something positive to the world. They have some of the most amazing and inspiring life stories. These people have a passion for living, healing, and leaving the world better than they found it. There is something inside these people that made them keep fighting through all the tough times, even when people told them it was not possible. They carried on and made their lives beautiful again. And now they are sharing their experiences with the world. This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. This is Jason Amoroso. He coaches professional athletes on mental peak performance. He is a life coach and a Revelation Breathwork teacher. Now, Jay, I'm real excited to talk about Revelation Breathwork today because it's such an amazing form of meditation and release. But first, I'd like to talk about your life and all the amazing paths you've been on that led you to the one you're on now. So, Jay, where are you from?
Originally grew up in Long Island, New York, and was there in New York through undergrad, and then moved out to LA to go to graduate school, and have been out here for about almost 16 years.
Nice. Were you into any sports growing up as a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, primarily baseball and basketball. My father and grandfather both played baseball in college.
Nice.
My grandfather played in the minor league, so baseball was a great father-son bonding experience.
That's starting to make sense now. Cool. Were you more into basketball or baseball, like in high school?
Both.
Both?
I love playing basketball. It's just a different experience. Baseball is very much kind of a one-on-one sport, guys in a team environment. It's really pitcher and hitter. Like, you're always just kind of on your own in baseball, even though it's kind of a team sport. But basketball really is much more of a team sport. To me, it's like poetry in motion. It's art. It's just like the energy of five guys playing together at one time is pretty amazing.
Yeah, you enjoying the March Madness right now?
Yeah, I do like the March Madness. To be honest, I'm more of an NBA guy. A lot of people love college. For me, I like watching the best.
Yeah.
And those guys are amazing. But it's fun. The excitement of college basketball is pretty awesome, too.
Definitely. So what did you want to do after college? What were you into then?
I did not want to get a job.
Okay, there you go. What options did that leave you with?
Well, I think it was in high school, maybe when I was a junior or senior. I saw Jerry Maguire. So I'm going to give you the kind of the short version.
Nice.
So back in the day, before they had computers, it's going to make me sound old. I'm 37 now. But back in the day, before fantasy baseball and fantasy sports was like a real thing, we used to do our own, what was called rotisserie baseball at the time. We draft our guys on napkins in the pizza parlor.
What?
And then we do our stats twice a year, because that's when they printed stats in the newspapers USA Today, at the end of the first half and at the end of the season. And that's what we did. So fantasy baseball, or at that time rotisserie baseball, was a big part of my life. I loved it. I loved the wheeling and dealing of trading and trying to find the diamond in the rough. So I wanted to be a GM when I was very little.
Wow.
Probably like middle school age.
So to go back to the rotisserie baseball drafting, you said, Did you guys make up the rules and the point system for that, or was there like a universal thing going on already where you guys just followed it?
Yeah, there was more of like an established structure. My dad had been doing it at his work with his coworkers, and so we kind of took a page from them and did a little like a kid's version of that. So I wanted to be a GM, but then when I saw Jerry Maguire, which I can't remember how old I was somewhere between junior of high school and probably sophomore in college, whenever that movie came out. Then I wanted to be an agent.
Really?
And yeah, so that movie had a big impact on me. And then I went to undergrad, graduated from Cornell University. I say graduated because I started out at St. Joe's in Philly, transferred up to Cornell. And when I graduated, I did not want to work.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I delay working? And so I thought about grad school, and my undergrad degree was in labor relations, which is kind of businessy.
Really? I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a small school at Cornell, and Gary Bettman, who I think might still be the commissioner of the NHL, or he was at the time.
Yeah, he is.
He went there. His daughter went there. So there's kind of a lot of like, it was a pre-law thing, and I never wanted to be a lawyer, but my dad's a lawyer, my uncle's a lawyer, my stepmom's a lawyer. There's a lot of lawyers in our family.
Yeah.
And I knew that having that degree would be valuable regardless of what I did. To get an MBA, which my brother has, usually you have to go work and then go back to get an MBA, and I didn't want to work, so I didn't want to go to business school. So I ended up applying to a bunch of law schools and got into a couple out in LA and ended up going to Pepperdine Law School.
Nice. So was that something you always wanted to do, move out to California, or it kind of just worked out where where you're going to school?
Well, I'm married to your cousin. who I met in high school. And when I was 16 years old, we started dating and we're together. And so we both went to, when I was at Cornell, Maura, your cousin, was at Ithaca College, so we stayed in the same city.
Yep.
And then she was going to chiropractic college and decided to come out to the one in Southern California.
Yeah.
Southern California University of Health Sciences.
So it was kind of planned.
Yeah, so I said, all right, I'll move out to California as well.
Awesome. So did you enjoy going to law school at Pepperdine?
I did, and the reason I did, and I'm just going to be really honest, like my path's different than everybody's. I love going to law school because I got to play basketball all day.
I remember you telling me that.
I lived in Venice Beach, and I got to play basketball every single day, and I definitely would go to class, but law school was not my primary focus.
That's amazing.
So I definitely was a decent enough student to learn and get by, but it wasn't like my passion. Like a lot of people go to law school and they're like, I love the law.
Right, yeah.
So I did that.
Jeez, people must have not liked you for playing basketball all day. They're probably studying their asses off. Did it just come to the schooling just come naturally to you? Like, were you just able to wing it?
I just did what had to get done.
Perfectly said.
You know, my study methods weren't really great. I would cram a lot. I would scramble a lot, but I always did okay. I think I had like a B+ average in law school. And I'm fortunate enough to have a pretty good memory when it comes to like kind of looking at things and remembering it and regurgitating it. So if you ask me now what the law is, I couldn't tell you what it is, but I knew it at the time, and then 3 days later I forget.
Yeah. So you're getting ready to graduate law school. What's your next step there?
Well, when I was in law school at Pepperdine, all my friends during the summers were getting these, $10,000 summer jobs, and I wanted to work in sports. I wanted to work in baseball still. I still wanted to be, at that point, either an agent or a GM, but more on the GM side. And so I was fortunate enough to, I think, have a relationship is big. I mean, I think every single one of my jobs in my entire life, and I've had many, have come from a relationship, from knowing people and caring about them. And I think that's really important. They get to know you and trust you. If you do good work, then you have opportunities.
Yeah.
And so at that point, the general manager now of the San Diego Padres, AJ Preller, was at the Dodgers.
Okay.
And so I was able, through that relationship, to get an internship.
Yeah.
Not in baseball operations at all,
but
with the hospitality team. So basically, in LA, there's lots of celebrities, and they have a lot of the luxury boxes. And so I was one of the young kids with a suit and tie on that would walk like Tom Hanks to his suite.
That's awesome.
So that's what I did that first summer when all my friends were making bank, working for law firms. I did that my first summer. My law school's 3 years, so that was after my first year. Then I slowly moved up, and in my second year, I was able to intern in the PR department. And PR department, a lot of people had gone from PR into baseball operations. So I wanted to be on that track to get into baseball operations. And so I was able to work in PR that next summer. And that was another level of kind of exposure where I got to go down into the clubhouse after the games. And the sports writers for the LA Times and all the people that covered the Dodgers at the time, they need quotes after the game to put in their story. So I would go down, and when some of the other media would interview, let's say like Eric Gagne, I would be there taking notes, writing down everything he said. Then I'd run up to the press box, and then there's some of the guys who, sports writers who couldn't go down, they were like, what do you got for me? And I'd tell them what I thought the best quotes were. So that was really fun.
Damn. That must have been like a dream job for you starting out, right? That must have been awesome.
It's a pretty cool gig in the summer. Get to go to every single Dodger game, every single home game.
Meet all the players.
Meet the players. And, the one thing I'll say about that, which is like, it's exciting at first, same with like meeting Tom Hanks, meeting these celebrities, like you realize very quickly they're just regular people, like very quickly.
Yeah.
And especially in that job, like if you have an opportunity to kind of get inside and behind the scenes, the people who are starstruck don't last very long because they don't want those kinds of people around. So you just start to see the regular people. They just happen to be extremely talented in sports, which is high profile. But yeah, so that was a good first summer. That was my second summer, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Then I graduated law school and didn't want to get a job if I wanted to stay in baseball, but there's only 30 teams.
Right.
So in my third year of law school, during the year, those other two were summer jobs. In the third year during the year, I actually was fortunate enough to intern in the baseball operations department at the Dodgers. So that was like awesome and kind of breaking in, not making any money, but it's just an amazing opportunity. I think a lot of people, I understand, need to make money, and I was living off law school loans. So
Right.
that was just a priority for me, more the experience, the exposure, and be able to meet people again, relationships, and show what I could do work-wise and work hard. So I did that as an intern, and it was awesome. I got to kind of leverage my legal education a little bit, where I got to work on some salary arbitration cases
Cool.
for the Dodgers. I was able to do a little bit helping out our legal team and our baseball ops team when the team went up against Scott Boras and Eric Gagne, which at the time was like the biggest split between, I think they wanted $8 million and we were offering $5 million. And the arbitration has to pick either or.
Okay.
So be a part of that was awesome.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And then just to kind of finish up this path, I was able, after I graduated from law school, just kind of waited, which probably wasn't the best decision, but I graduated in May. And I didn't have a job, and I just kind of I planned our wedding. We got married in June.
Yep.
And then in the baseball season, people switch jobs usually in the off season, which is like October.
Okay.
And so my good friend AJ Preller was able to get a job with the Texas Rangers when his good friend John Daniels became at 28 the GM of the Texas Rangers.
Damn, that's young.
So, yeah. And so he left, and I was very fortunate at the time it worked out where I was able to kind of slide in at the entry-level spot at the Dodgers in the baseball operations. At the time, I think it was called assistant baseball operations. And that's my first full-time job in baseball.
Wow.
Timing kind of worked out. I believe everything maybe doesn't happen for a reason, but I think we can find a meaning in everything. And the timing, if we're patient enough and kind of are able to, which I think is really hard, in a way surrender to the timing and be patient with life's timing, we can really have more of a grace and a flow in life than trying to force our way in to when we think something should happen at a certain time.
Definitely. And I find that if you do enjoy what you're doing somewhat, I feel like those situations are easier to come by too.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, doors, tend to open. We tend to create our own opportunities by not just our attitude and what we're focusing on, but also if we work hard, if we don't complain, if we add value. I love JJ Watt has this expression like every person in every job, your goal should be to outperform your contract, to kind of work so hard and establish so much value and help that people think you're underpaid, and just because that's a mindset to outperform your contract. I love hearing that.
Definitely. I was listening to, I'm a huge Jim Rohn fan.
Nice.
You ever listen to Jim Rohn?
Mm-hmm.
He was saying, like, add more value to yourself than you do to your job. Like, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and then everything will start working better for you. He said, like, a lot of people just, all they do is work on their job. They don't spend any time on themselves. They're out working 9 to 5, and by the time they come home, they're exhausted, and they really don't do anything for themselves to help add value to themselves. And if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, every aspect of your life could have potential to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been a lifelong student of life, of myself, of growth, and I would agree that, we have to invest. We don't have to, but if we make the time and make it a priority to invest in ourselves, and I don't think we're really taught to do that or taught the importance of it in our traditional kind of world.
I know.
I think that's really something that separates people.
Definitely. I mean, I guess some high schools do. I had like a leadership class in high school where they gave us like the 7 successful habits of highly successful people, and it was taught a little bit, but there wasn't a lot of emphasis on personal growth that I wish I could have started or knew about when I was that age, because if you start working on it at that age, you're way ahead of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, my kind of big moment or awakening happened in my early 20s, maybe when I was 24. So yeah, if you can start in high school or middle school, just kind of learning a little bit here and there and learning about mindfulness and meditation and learning about more self-awareness, that you have a huge advantage over a lot of people.
What happened when you were 24? What was your kind of like your aha moment?
Oh man, that's a whole nother story. You want me to give you the short version of it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so the short version of it was that I was searching for some meaning in my life. At that point, I think that was when I was interning at the Dodgers, and I seemed to have a good, by all means, resume, a law school graduate, working for the Dodgers. It sounds so awesome.
Right.
But there's a lot of things in my life. Just at the time, my wife and I at that point weren't married.
Right.
And we had broken up. We'd been together for 6.5 years, which was a long time.
Yeah.
Through a lot of our kind of formative early teens, early 20s. And so we broke up, which was totally necessary, even though it was really difficult. And I just kind of had to find myself, who I was outside of being in a relationship, and find me, which I never really did. And so really I had some challenges with gambling, with alcohol, just searching, man. It's trying to find some meaning, trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted to do, what my life was about. And so I really had no love in my life. I really had no concept of what love was outside of like romantic love, but more like my connection to myself, my connection to life.
Right. Yeah.
You know, what was my purpose? Who am I? Who was I? And so my ex-girlfriend at the time, now wife, invited me. This is my version. Maybe I don't remember it, you know, not remembering exactly how it happened, but invited me to a place out in California. And, you know, coming from New York, being more of a New Yorker, I kind of see myself as a bridge between two worlds. Like the traditional world, you know, kind of grow up, go to school, get a good education, get good grades, get a good job, you know, make good money. And that's kind of that law school path. And then there's this other world, which is just kind of always drawn to me, which is more of a non-physical, spiritual connection that I've always felt, you know, my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I'm open to more Cali things. So came from New York in one world, that's California.
Yeah.
Still on that traditional career path, but on the personal side, my wife took me to a place called the Agape International Spiritual Center.
I've heard of that place.
And Reverend Michael Beckwith is a lot more well-known now than he was then, from The Secret and from Oprah and all these things, and went to a service. It's not really church, but I went to a service on a Sunday, and the timing again was kind of divine. And you know, I'll try to explain it here just because I'm kind of getting out there, but there was just this one moment where I was just overcome with this intense, almost like electrical feeling in my body.
Really?
Which I can't really describe. It sounds kind of weird, but I was shaking and like...
You probably can't put it into words, yeah.
I mean, now I know what it is. It was really love. And my heart was so closed off at that point.
Yeah.
And so kind of the armor was... I didn't let my guard down. It just kind of went through all the armor that I had up. And so it was a life-changing experience.
That's amazing.
Can remember it like it was yesterday. It was one of those moments I'll never forget.
Wow.
And from that moment on, I was like, all right, what is this all about? Like, I need more. And so that's kind of how I started my personal growth path.
That's a great story. So at this point, you're working for the Dodgers. And curious, how did life coaching become one of your interests?
It's a great question. So once I had that kind of spiritual awakening, for lack of a better phrase, I mean, that is a good phrase for it, I started, Agape offered classes. My wife, Maura, and I started taking classes there and really enjoying it. And she was pregnant with our first child. We have 4 kids now. So this was, Caden's almost 12, so it was at least probably 11 and a half years ago, 12 years ago now. And we were in a hypnobirthing class. So we went full on hippie when we moved out to California. So, and now that's not so crazy anymore, but we were doing hypnobirthing. And we had a substitute teacher in our hypnobirthing class. And our substitute teacher was sharing about her background in the beginning of class and had mentioned that she had a master's in spiritual psychology.
Okay.
And that just like perked my ears up, and my wife too, Maura, and we were both like, that sounds awesome. We want to do that. And so we looked into it at the University of Santa Monica in Santa Monica, California. We went to an information evening, and it was very clear that this was the next path for me and her.
Wow.
But she was pregnant at the time, so it was kind of, I went first.
Right.
And so that was the 2-year master's program. They've changed their structure now, so they don't offer the master's program anymore. But the education they offer is life-changing, world-class, unlike anything I've ever experienced. And once I was in that program, I realized that coaching was like a job. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And I was working at the Dodgers at that point, kind of concurrently to that. As I enrolled in USM, I started working in baseball operations in the Dodgers. And then once my wife was pregnant, and I saw in baseball, as much as that was my dream to be a GM one day, and it was totally a dream, and it was something I felt like I was almost born to do.
Yeah.
When she got pregnant, I looked around the game, and the game demands a lot. It really is a 365-day-a-year, 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of travel involved. And at 24 years old, I looked ahead at my family. My parents got divorced when I was, 8 or 9. And, I've been with my wife since I was 16 with that little break I talked about for about a year and a half. But relationship and family is very, very important to me. And so I looked ahead and didn't see too many great examples of people with healthy family lives that worked, at least in my perception at the time. So I ended up leaving. I left my path, kind of gave that up to be a GM one day and gave it up for family. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely the right decision at the time. And as timing always works perfectly, the associate counsel at the Dodgers was leaving to go somewhere else. And so there was an opening there. And usually associate counsel positions for in-house are filled by people who have law firm experience. That's kind of the traditional path of you go to law school, then you work for a big law firm, and then you can work in-house counsel. And so, again, I've kind of always bucked the tradition. That's just how I've always been. And the general counsel, who's amazing, he's still there, Sam Fernandez, gave me an opportunity. And still grateful for. And so I was able to, at the time, it was crazy. My wife was pregnant with, I think, our second child, and I was studying for the bar, and I was pursuing my master's in spiritual psychology all at the same time. It was a pretty intense time.
Yeah.
I took the bar and I passed it, and then I was an attorney for the Dodgers for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And while I was an attorney, that's when I was going through my degree at University of Santa Monica for spiritual psychology. To answer your question, life coaching, the way that the program at USM is set up is that it's once a month. So it's designed for working adults. So you go to a class on a weekend, and then you have a whole month to practice the skills that you're learning. And so I would go into my day job at the Dodgers as a lawyer, and people would just, you know how it is, like when you're open and you are practicing listening from your heart and listening to the person and not just waiting to talk, or you're really present with them, people tend to gravitate towards you because it's pretty rare in our lives that other people are actually listening and genuinely care about our problems or our life. So people would just come into my office and start telling me their problems, and I would get to practice what I was learning. And so I was like, this is a career. Like, life coaching can be a job. And I know there's therapists, there's marriage and family counselors, and there's all that, but I was kind of done with school. I didn't want to get another license. You know, that just wasn't my path. And there's a lot of path of a lot of people I know, and it's awesome. It just wasn't my path. And so that's kind of how I got interested in life coaching. And I don't even love that term, but that's what we'll call it. So
what would you call it if you could put some?
I don't know. I have never been able to kind of describe it. I guess life coaching is, some people, it just sounds so like, oh, that's so Cali. That's so like, it sounds, I guess the judgment I have in it is it sounds so like soft and not substantial, even though it is the most substantial thing that I've ever experienced and worked with people on.
Well, yeah. And I feel like when people hear life coaching, like, oh, why would I need a life coach? Or maybe,
exactly.
You know, it's what I'm saying. But
a luxury for people who have nothing better to do, just bored and want to talk about their problems. But it's actually so much different. And I'll share with you a little bit. I'm kind of bouncing around here, but I'll give you a little bit of
that's fine.
The coaching that I do is from the perspective of spiritual psychology. And after the 2 years at USM, when I got my master's, I did another third year, specifically of soul-centered coach training with Kyle Mercer, who does the inquiry method. He is phenomenal. He's up in Ashland, Oregon. And so that really complemented my USM education in spiritual psychology. And basically the context from which I work from, which is not for everybody, but it's the way that I've lived my entire life since USM, is that our life experience is a school, and we each have our own unique curriculum. Your life is your curriculum. And so life is not something that we kind of just get through. It's not something we have to deal with, and it's not even in a lot of ways something that we do make it and we do create it, but at many points we don't. And it's more about now, are we willing to surrender to the life that wants to emerge through us? And when we're able to slow down enough to listen to what that is, that's when life brings us on these paths that we never could have imagined going down if we didn't stop and listen. And the more we listen to our intuition, then that's when, it was so, people call it coincidences. In the spiritual community, you would call it, and again, I don't even like that spiritual, what does that mean? But in this community, you might call it like synchronistic, like the timing just happened to work out. Well, that's what happens when you're quiet, when you're still, when you're listening, when you go within. So the coaching that I do is really, it does acknowledge the world. Like, we all want to create something in our life. We have, let's say, for lack of a better word, we have goals. I like the word vision because it implies it's more heartfelt.
Right.
A goal could be, I want to make $1 million. Great. That's awesome. Have fun.
Yeah.
If your vision is, I want to build something and the money's a part of that, that's awesome. If it's heartfelt for you, that's awesome, because the context of spiritual psychology says as we move forward in our worldly goals or creating this vision of our life, that's the goal line. We're going to have opportunities to also move forward on the soul line. So what are the unresolved issues inside of us, the limiting beliefs, the past emotional pain that we hold on to, the coping mechanisms that we've held on to, that we adopted as we were younger? I think I already said limiting beliefs. All of these things that are in our way from achieving and creating and manifesting our vision come up in that process.
Definitely.
And that's the work that I love doing with people. Let's go for this huge heartfelt dream and goal. It's got to have heart and meaning. And then as you do that, all of these life situations are going to pop up. And most people think those are obstacles to, creating and manifesting this vision. And they get discouraged and, oh, well, my boss is being a jerk, or my wife or my husband's not cooperating, and then this happened, and, this deal fell through. But they don't realize that all of those things are actually...
they're working in your favor.
For lack of a better word. Yeah, the universe bringing these things up for you so that we can resolve them and come to peace with them and really look at the limiting beliefs and the self-judgments we're holding on to. And when we can release those, we're more free to experience life. We're more free to take action from a place of creativity as opposed to reactivity. We don't feel like we have to prove our worth, that we have to prove we're enough, that we have to prove to other people or really to ourselves or even to God that we deserve good things to happen to us. It's just a different context.
There's that really good quote, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And is that true? Maybe, maybe not. But I guarantee the person that does believe it and doesn't believe it lead two different lives.
Absolutely.
Like two completely different lives. Like that's where it's like, is it true or is it not? It's not really the right question, I feel like.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that statement, this stuff can be simple, but it's not necessarily easy to apply. Like it's not always easy to find the quote unquote good in a shitty situation.
Yeah.
There's a great video on YouTube. What's it called? It's called like How to Deal with Adversity, Failure, Setbacks by a former Navy SEAL called Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink, Willink. And he wrote an amazing book called Extreme Ownership. And it really is, this video is more of an audio about this one word that he uses for everything, and it's good. So whatever happens in your life, what's the good in it? And I know that can seem like very kind of flippant and Pollyannish and, like that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot more creativity to stay in that game of where is the good in this? How can I use anything that happens, regardless if it's awful, for learning and growth? And I challenge some of the people I work with, let's play a game. Find one example of something awful that happens that you can't find the good in. And we use the example of another great book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, a very famous psychologist. And that's an incredible book where he was in the Nazi prison concentration camps and how he looked around, everything was happening, people being beaten to death, starving to death, like hell on earth conditions. And there were two types of people. The type of person that saw that, what was happening to them and around them, and basically felt victimized by that and gave up on their will to live. And they were much more likely to get beaten. They were much more likely not to survive. And another group of people that looked at all the same horrific things happening and said inside, I'm not going to give my power to choose my response and the meaning in this away to the Nazis and my, abusers. And so they were much more likely to smile, to share food or a blanket with someone. They refused to give away their internal state to what was happening outside of them. It's the same for Jesus. It's the same for Gandhi. It's the same for all the kind of mystics and masters and people who reside in love throughout history. So I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but
it was a good tangent. I enjoyed it.
It's about choice.
Yeah, definitely. You're still doing the life coaching and everything, right?
I do. I work with all different kinds of people. I've worked with executives. Here's the sexy thing. I've worked with executives and millionaires and entertainers, and that's like, and they're just people. And I work with teachers and waitresses, servers, and I've worked with all different walks of life. Moms, dads, like if you're a person, if you're here in a human body, then you have a spiritual curriculum. You have issues that you're working through. that are your specific relationships with people, that are giving you the opportunity to open your heart more to love, first to yourself and then to others.
That's great. So, Jay, how did you stumble upon Revelation Breathwork?
So Revelation Breathwork is what I've kind of called this practice. This is not my invention or creation by any means, but the reason that I've given it that name is because as I've shared this with other people, they typically say, oh, I've done breath work before. But when they do this type of breath work, they usually say, holy smokes, I've never done that before, because it is such a unique experience for most people the first time. At least I did it. I was like, holy smokes, that was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I want more.
Yep.
For myself, I want more. And I also want to be able to bring it to the people that I help and work with, because it is such a phenomenal tool, the most effective tool that I've experienced. And I've done a lot of meditation, tried a lot of different things. And this is the most effective. That's really what it comes down to. In terms of being able to get out of our head, in terms of being able to release emotional pain, some of the other modalities I've taught, you can help support people in releasing emotional pain, but it might take a long time.
Right.
And I've had people like decades of emotional pain they've been holding on to for decades in one session.
Oh, yeah.
If they're willing and open to. So it's much more effective than, let's say, like talk therapy or something like that to get that emotional stuff out, because so much we try and think our way into positive. And if you're feeling crappy, it's hard to just think positive. And that's why I think a lot of people get turned off by the whole, well, just think positive idea, because you feel crappy.
Right.
So when we're able to release the emotional pain, the emotional energy that is the cause for our feeling crappy, then the thoughts are just positive. It's easier. It's like cleaning the slate. And now what positive thinking do I want to reinforce acceptance and what's true for me? So Revelation Breathwork, I learned it from an amazing teacher. His name is David Elliott. I think his website is davidelliott.com, and he's a healer.
Did I go to one of his classes?
I don't think so.
Okay, that was the other guy then.
Yeah. So David has been doing this for a long time, and he's a phenomenal teacher. He's well known in the LA area, in this community, and I'm very grateful. I'm still learning from him, still working with him. I was fortunate enough to be trained by him to offer this, and it's really been a game changer, kind of pun intended, for the athletes that I work with and for everybody else. So it's a different context. So in the athlete world, it's more about releasing pressure, releasing stress, because there's a lot of young men that are very competitive, that are very driven, that have high expectations, and a lot of pressure that comes with that. And I think as young men too, again, we're not really taught what to do with our emotions even. So we stuff them. We don't really feel them too much. We want to either avoid them or deny them or put them to the side instead of letting them come up and then out, and they just pass through us, so we're not a slave to them in a way, and they don't impact us so much. So this has been a great tool for them to be able to do that. And I think one of the cool things about Revelation Breathwork is it's an active meditation. So a lot of people, especially these young kids they have a lot of energy, when you ask them to sit quietly and meditate and notice their thoughts or breathe, like it's hard for them. But when they lay down on the floor in the breath work and they do the active meditation, it kind of gets their mind almost something to be occupied with. And then as you continue to do the breathing, all of a sudden, like, your mind is gone and you don't even notice that it's gone and you're just breathing.
That's why I love it, because you have to work for it in order for it to work. Like, it's active.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't think you're going to make it through some of those songs because you're really working hard. I think that's why it's great too, because you're really working hard and then you get to really chill out for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes afterwards and really take in everything that you just did. Do you also do, like, after the breath work part is over, the intense part, do you do the meditation where you kind of guide people through?
Yeah, so the way that the breath work, at least the classes that I have in Santa Monica on Monday nights for groups, is it's about 32 minutes or so of the active breathing, and every breathwork teacher is different. So some people play like really kind of meditation, spiritual music, which is cool. For me, I like to play kind of upbeat, rock, pop, like fun music with a beat so you can breathe to the beat. That's just me. I like that. And so we do that for like 30 minutes, and it sounds like a lot, but once you start to breathe, like, it's over before you know it. And it is work. You can work really hard and get a really big payoff, and you don't have to work hard either. The breath, kind of the magic, the healing is in the breath. It's not in all the other things. It just makes it more of a fun experience. So after we do the 32 minutes of active breathing, and I always, tell people the intention is to really open your heart as you're breathing. And so if we do that, the healing happens, the energy moves through our body. And then when we do the just nose, I guess in the yoga world, which I'm not a big yoga person, but it's called Shavasana, where you just lay on the ground with breathing through your nose and you relax. And yeah, we do that for about 12 to 15 minutes, and I play more calmer music there that people just have really big experiences at that point. I've had more kind of major spiritual experiences where I'm connected to God, source, love, and that's inside, not somewhere out there, doing breath work than I had before. And I'd had some pretty big ones at USM and other places before, but this is such a tool to just clear out all the crap. I mean, my philosophy on life, spirituality, coaching, working with athletes, working with everybody can be summed up in one of my favorite quotes by Toni Morrison. And it's, if you want to fly, you got to give up the shit that weighs you down, because it's all the crap that we're holding on to. That's all in our own head, in our own consciousness. A more spiritual thing would be from one of the mystic poets, Rumi, which is, our task is not to seek for love. Our task is to seek for all the obstacles to love and remove them. Same idea. Our natural state is loving. Our natural state is freedom. Our natural state is peace. And it's all the extra crap that we've bought into, adopted from when we were little, and all this stuff that gets in the way of that. So it's more of an unconditioning process. It's more of a letting go process instead of a searching and seeking for this love, this freedom, this energy. It's already here.
And you can see the emotional release on almost everybody's face coming out of that door when that class is over.
Oh my God, yeah. People are, it's crazy.
Like, how many people come up and hug you after one of those sessions? I feel like everybody is just so grateful for where they are at that moment. It's one of the most unbelievable things I've seen collectively, like in a collective meditation like that.
Yeah, it's really a cool, beautiful experience for people to open up like that. And the group energy, the group dynamic is bigger than a private. So I do privates too, and those are really different, but they can be intense, but they can be beautiful. They're slower, they're more gentle. Like, the privates are more for people that are dealing with something in their life that they're either stuck on or they're ready to let go of. They know they need to shift, but they don't know how. And it's really intimate and personal. It's so much of a different flavor, but it's still using the breath for healing and release. And either one, it's about opening our hearts and letting, like, for me, that one moment where it's like, I had, guys do this, people do it. We armor up. At some point we get hurt and we're like, I don't want to feel that anymore. So we armor up our hearts and we develop coping mechanisms, not let people or life into that tender wound that we still have that's never healed. But the only way it's going to heal is if we're willing to open up and we're willing to feel and release that pain that we're holding on to. And that's why this work takes, I'm the first one to say, this kind of work, this personal growth work, whether it's in breath work, whether it's in life coaching, even mental coaching, it takes a lot of courage to look at the parts inside of you that are hurting or that are feeling betrayed or abandoned. And every single human being on the planet can relate to all of that stuff. This feeling of somehow not enough, not worthy enough. We all have it. So,
and just when you feel like you got it all figured out, it hits you in the face again, and you're right back at it.
Yeah, I'm no expert. I'm no master by any means. I've just made a commitment to go down this road. That's just the most important thing in my life, is opening my heart and experiencing love and God and forgiveness and all these great things that we hear about and read about and understand intellectually. But when we have the experience of that, it's something you never forget and you can never go back from.
Right, definitely. So where can people find out about like breath work and everything, classes near them, just be more even educated on the subject?
Again, that's the thing with the term breath work. So if you are not in LA,
yeah, you're right, yeah,
and you want to try it, like, you could type in breath work and see what comes and see.
You're right, I forgot about that. Yeah, that
I've been trained in is the 2-step technique. It's a belly breath, a chest breath, and an exhale. And I'd recommend that people go to a class if they can find one, beside, instead of just listening to my 2-second explanation there and trying it on their own. But there's different kinds of breath work. So there's like holotropic breath work, which I've tried before. There's yoga breathing, there's the fire breath, there's all these different things. So my website's revelationbreathwork.com. I teach a class pretty much every Monday in Santa Monica from 7:30 to 8:30 for the most part. I do privates. I also am starting to do like a men's only breathwork group, because in the work I do with athletes, it's all men, and just the energy of that is so awesome and different. It's like a warrior energy, but not in a violent way. It's more of like a healing way. It's really, really cool and sacred. If you're in LA, there's a ton of breath work.
How are the athletes, like, are they receptive to the breath work and everything?
Absolutely, because it's unlike anything they've ever experienced, and it gives them that, lets them press the energetic reset button like unlike anything else. So, most young men and young people, let's just say young men because that's the athletes that I work with, we're not taught really great strategies on how to deal with stress and pressure and the emotions that come with that. So what do most of us do? We drink, we gamble, we play video games, we masturbate to porn, we do all this stuff that's just becomes the outlet for us. Because one, we're not really taught anything, and that's what other people do, so it's kind of just how we're conditioned. So there's other ways, and that's one of my biggest missions with working with these young men is to show them that these other ways are, one, more effective. So if it works, if it's more effective, do it. And they're just healthier, more aligned outlets to recontextualize and let go of stress.
Yeah.
So they absolutely love it.
Probably after the breath work, they're naturally probably just making better life decisions. It's not like something, right?
We make bad life decisions when we're not in touch with our intuition, when we're not in touch with our heart, when we're not clear on who we are as a person, what our values are, when we're distracted, when we're trying to prove something to somebody else, when we don't want to look a certain way, we care too much what people think. When our focus is on our ego and the externals in our life, we make decisions that are influenced by fear. At the end of the day, we make a bad decision for the most part is one made by fear. I work with people all the time that they make decisions against their intuition because they think it's the right thing to do, or other people will be disappointed if they don't, or for the money, or for whatever. And every time somebody makes a decision against their intuition and their heart, it never works out. I mean, on its face. Now, at the end, you can use that experience to realize how important it is to live from your intuition. Now, the key, though, is we have to be willing to slow down enough, to make time to slow down and get really still and listen inside. And then it's like a muscle, our intuition. The more we pay attention to it, the more we ask ourselves, what does my gut feel here? And am I courageous enough and willing to follow that? Because it's not always the thing that makes the most sense. If we are, the more we use that muscle, the stronger it gets, and the more easier we are able to make good decisions that are aligned with who we are, our values. And so, yes, I think breathwork helps remove the crap that's in the way so we can experience who we really are, what we're all about, and then we can live in the world from that place, which includes taking action and making decisions. Not always easy to do.
That's pretty amazing. I miss going to those classes. I felt great after every single one.
Well, I'm working on putting together a virtual class, so when that happens, you'll be the first to know, and then maybe we can do something online where people can breathe from the comfort of their own homes.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. So Jay's website is revelationbreathwork.com. You can also find him on Jason Amoroso Coaching on Facebook. And Jay, I had a great time talking to you today. This was an awesome podcast. Thank you for being honest and putting all the cards on the table. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. I'm just grateful to connect with you, Kev, and just be able to share. Hopefully this is in service to someone and some people got value from it. At the end of the day, we're all doing the best that we can.
Absolutely.
And yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Thanks, Kev. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. My private practice is located in New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. If you have any additional questions about today's podcast, other episodes, or any questions about Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic in general, feel free to visit my website at drkevinpecca.com or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca. Hope you enjoyed the show. Cheers.